What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another pound for pound ATL. Just when we thought the excitement was done for, in a sense, with the draft being over and done with, the Falcons start working their roster. I guess you could say, start trimming some of the fat. At first, we had the release of Mike Davis. Kind of saw that one coming. Like, that was a major possibility. I know he wasn't as effective as they wanted him to be, but I felt like he was maybe starting to gain some confidence and ground towards the end of the season. But obviously, after drafting Tyler Algieri in the 5th round and signing Damian Williams and bringing back Quadre Olison, that's probably right now going to be your three-headed monster at running back going into the season. There's been talks that possibly Cordell Patterson is going to spend more time receiving the ball versus running the ball like he's been. Sorry, glasses are kind of messed up. Oh, okay. Anyway, so with that being said, they let Mike Davis go because that created about $2.3 million worth of cap space, which is something we talked about during the draft process. They were going to have to create some more space to be able to sign their draft class. The draft class pool, with the way the top 51 roster worked out, was going to cost them about $4 or $5 million, and at the time they were sitting at about 2.5. Releasing Mike Davis actually got you really close to that. So maybe one more move and there would have been plenty of cap space. Well, now, with what went down today, they definitely have plenty of cap space, because not only did they release Mike Davis, they also released James Vaughters, which makes sense when you drafted 2 edge rushers. Vaughters didn't give you a ton last year outside of just veteran type play. But when you brought in Lorenzo Carter and then signed Arnold Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone, there was no real room for Vaughters. So that right there probably got you close to what you needed. But then the big news dropped today, and it's what I'm recording this video about, and that is the extension of Grady Jarrett. He's been a big question mark throughout this whole offseason. Like, what was the team going to do with him? Were they going to extend him? Were they going to trade him? Because that was a possibility that was talked about quite a bit by myself, by other outlets. And so it was just a big question mark hanging over the organization at this point, because there were times last year that Grady just didn't seem like he wanted to be here per se. When he was asked about things like that, he made comments throughout the season that he was looking to hit the free agent market, definitely looking to, cash in one more time. As he is, I think 29 years old or right at 30. I mean, he's hitting that point where you're getting into the, possible last contract depending on how he plays. And I feel like he had to answer the question to himself, was this a team he wanted to be on? A team that was clearly rebuilding. And he right now, as it stood, was clearly the focus of the defensive line. I can't help but remember that clip of Grady Jarrett getting blocked by 3 offensive linemen and him asking, hey, is there anybody else y'all want to block besides me? And so I really felt like maybe his want to be here was going to be tied to what this team did to get him some help. Last year they drafted Taquan Graham. A year before that they drafted Marlon Davidson, and that hasn't really panned out so far. So this year, last year they drafted Taquan Graham. So, and he played well in his showing. So you hope he continues to take a step forward. They brought back Anthony Rush and signed Vincent Taylor. So that added some beef to the defensive line itself in the 3-4 style that Dean Pease wants to run. As I alluded to earlier, they brought in Lorenzo Carter and then drafted Arnold Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone, along with the second-year Adi Ogundeji. So I really felt like maybe that after the draft, maybe he felt like the defense had personnel-wise taken a better step forward to where maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't be the sole focus and that he could get back to his like penetrating ways as far as like tackles for loss and sacks, because he did have a down statistical year last year. But as we mentioned, he had absolutely zero help, really. He had the likes of Stephen Means and Dante Fowler, and that was really about it, you know. So he signed a 3-year extension that is a new money of $51 million. It takes him up to $17 million a year, which isn't a bad deal. I'm going to be interested to see how it's structured, but it looks like it's the extension includes $34.5 million fully guaranteed. So now Jarrett is signed through 2025 season to a total value of $67 million. That's really good for Grady Jarrett. And when Dean Pease first got here, he felt like Grady Jarrett could be like a Jarrell Casey for him. So now that they've added more talent, which, you know, if you stick around on Friday, I'm going to be dropping my first like real deep look at Arnold Ebiketie, who I feel like could have some shades of Harold Landry depending on how it all plays out. So if we can get some more like pressure from somebody else, anybody else, that's going to be able to open up things for Grady Jarrett. You know, this is a team game. Always has been, always will be. And everybody needs help. Like, if you have one guy can get taken away. You need more than one. You need 3 or 4 guys. And you need them in waves and in bunches. So I can only assume that Grady Jarrett had some confidence in some of the things that we had done, or by doing this may then go out and do. If I'm not mistaken, guys like Jason Pierre-Paul, Justin Houston, and Morgan Fox are still out there to be signed. And as it sits right now, by signing Grady Jarrett, we've opened up $14 to $15 million in cap space. So now they can definitely go sign some, you know, competition at guard. They can add another, you know, veteran pass rusher to go along with Lorenzo Carter. So I'll be really interested in the coming days to see what they do with this newfound money besides just signing the draft class. Because I don't think they're done with this roster. I do think that they're going to make a few more moves even before we get to like mandatory camp, which is coming up at the end of this month, beginning of next. So exciting times. I'm glad to see that they're not just sitting on their hands. I know a lot of us were worried about like the direction this front office was going at the beginning of the offseason. But since the fiasco of Deshaun Watson has gotten put behind us, they have made some strong strides between, you know, re-signing some guys, getting some guys back in the fold, and bringing some guys in on like low risk deals. So obviously I, for one, who was doing a lot of predicting that Grady Jarrett was going to get traded, and that was basically based off of I didn't think he was happy here. And I'm always of the opinion that if you have players that don't want to be here, I want to try to get something for them instead of just letting them walk out the door. So I think the signing, the extending of Grady Jarrett, obviously he gets, you know, the money he was looking for, and the team gets the like defensive rock that you needed on this line to help, you know, bring up the young guys. And you know, Grady Jarrett, if nothing else, is a locker room leader for sure. Like, he is, you know, a standard that you play by. So I'm glad to have him back in the fold for another 3 years. I think 4 years, you know, at 4 years total, 2025. So yeah, another 3 years. So that's, dude, that is super awesome. So glad to have him back under a roster. Keep your eye on the channel. Like I said, I'll be posting a breakdown of Arnold Ebiketie. I believe I'm trying to get it out there on Friday. I know Toby's going to be working on one for Drake London. And, you know, we're just going to try to highlight some of these draft picks and how they fit. We'll be back live next Tuesday, so keep your eyes locked there. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Toby D is at Toby D1991. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.